Today, we are sharing a little bit about a new offering from EasyPost.
We are here to introduce EasyPost Enterprise. And the simplest way to say it is when out of the box won't do, that's what we do.
Oh, I love it. You want a job over on marketing, getting the taglines in there, huh? Welcome back to Unboxing Logistics. This is the super fun new podcast from EasyPost where we dive into topics of all sorts that surround the logistics industry. I'm Lori Boyer, and I'm your host, and I am thrilled today to have with me two of my comrades in arms, double the Jeffs, double the fun. That's how it's going to be today. So we're going to talk about a big, exciting new announcement coming from EasyPost, and I am just beyond excited to have them. So I am going to introduce, we have Jeff Goeters. Smile and say hi, Jeff.
Hi.
And we have Jeff Skaistis.
Hey there.
And I'd like each of you to take a second. Let's start with Jeff Skaistis, and then we'll hit Jeff Goeters. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you do at EasyPost.
My name's Jeff Skaistis. I'm a principal engineer at EasyPost working on EasyPost Enterprise. I've been in this industry doing software for shipping and logistics for approaching 32 years now. So it's been a ride, and I'm continuing to enjoy that ride. I'm excited to see what's coming next.
That's incredible. I just had to say the words doing software in 32 years, especially in our industry. I mean, that's pioneering stuff there, Jeff. All right, Goeters, let's hear from you.
My name is Jeff Goeters. My claim to fame is I started a competing enterprise company, did all I could do for it, and now I'm here to bring EasyPost far, far beyond that. Add to Jeff's thing, Jeff was there in the beginning, so I'm honored to work with him and honored to have him here on our team to help me with that task.
I love working with both of you. You are so knowledgeable. You really, you guys provide us so much insight into the history and just the trends all the time. So today we are going to be talking, Jeff Skaistis mentioned EasyPost Enterprise. So we are going to be diving into this awesome new offering from EasyPost. But before we talk about it, one of our community's favorite segments of the show is where we get to know our guests. We may have been in the industry, Jeffs, you may have been in the industry for decades, but that doesn't mean that people really know you yet. So today we're going to get to know you a little bit better by playing this or that. Are you ready for it?
We're ready.
Absolutely.
Were you staying up all night last night just excited for it?
Actually, yeah, I did a lot of prep.
I'm excited every day, Lori.
Okay, that's so true. That's so true. Okay. All right, first question. I'm going to throw this one to Goeters. Would you rather have a photographic memory or an IQ over 200?
It's photographic memory, definitely.
Really? Why is that?
What does the IQ give you? The ability to outwit, but if you don't have anything to use to base that decision on, right, the data is the important part of knowing the way a journey will go. So
I love that.
I have machines to do the IQ stuff.
That is so true. With technology, they can be the IQ.
But yeah, the stuff in my head is the most valuable thing that defines my personality and everything I've done and what I can do to make the world a better place. So
that's fantastic. Okay, Skaistis. Okay, we're going to see this. Are you a video game guy or are you a board game kind of person?
More a video game person.
Hey, look at you.
I don't play as much as I used to. Back in my younger days, I played a little bit more, but I still enjoy it occasionally.
Are you a console guy or a on the computer guy?
PC, I'll say it's a wide range. I go from PCs to also vintage arcade. So.
Oh, I love it. I am a video game. I have to say I love board games, but I am totally a video gamer too. People don't always expect that, but you and we're going to have to hop online and play some sort of gaming.
Jeff, we're going to get you a Steam Deck for Christmas.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, let's say, Goeters, would you rather teach a class or attend a class?
What's the class on?
It's on Shakespearean insults.
I would rather attend the class.
Okay.
I always learn more from that.
Is there any subject that you would prefer to teach?
Anything I can contribute on. I know I have a lot to learn. I have no delusions that, my God, do I not know a lot of stuff yet. So
Awesome.
anything I'm good at and I can contribute to, I would. If it's the 99.9% of the stuff that I don't know yet, I'm willing to learn.
Okay, I love that. That is so critical, that mindset for everyone in our industry, everyone everywhere. The ability to learn and the fact that you know you need to learn shows just how awesome you are. Okay, Skaistis, would you rather, for the rest of your life, only have virtual meetings or only have in-person meetings? You can only have one.
Probably in-person meetings.
Okay. Do you like working remotely, or do you prefer kind of a hybrid, or what is your thought on remote
Yeah,
working?
I would actually prefer hybrid. I mean, unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck here in, not quite by myself in Tulsa. We have a couple other people here, but we spent last week in the Maryland office with a bunch of people who came up there, and it's always good to do that periodically because there's a lot more, you can get a lot more information exchange and that kind of thing, when you're in person. So although, remote is definitely more convenient a lot of times, it's also good to kind of do both when you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I love remote. I'm here in the office in Utah, and we work this hybrid. I said I love remote, but I love hybrid. So we're in here about half the time and at home, and both have their places. So I totally agree with that. Gators, would you rather have pizza for the rest, or any food you love? We'll say anything because I don't want to assume you love pizza. That was free for the rest of your life, or it costs money, but it's calorie free for the rest of your life.
Well, if it was calorie free, I'd die. So by conservation of energy, I would prefer that it be free.
Okay. You could always go work out after anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need the calories to support the whole, cell process thing, life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Our final question is going to be a question for both of you, and it is around your favorite Jeff. So I'm going to say, do you prefer Jeff Bezos or Jeffrey Goldblum?
I got to go with Goldblum, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I love it.
I'm going to go with Bezos. Not necessarily that I agree with everything he does, but man, that gentleman has accomplished some stuff in his life.
Yeah, that is so true.
In this industry, especially, he's a major agitator, shall we say. So I have to have the respect for what that man's achieved.
Awesome. Well, between the two of you, we hit both of them. So when they watch this, they will both feel good. Because I'm sure they're going to have it on repeat.
I'm sure we'll get it shared to both of them. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our topic for today. We know in the industry that we have a wide variety of people that participate, big players. We've got really large companies. We've got small to medium-sized businesses. We have a variety of people. But today, we are sharing a little bit about a new offering from EasyPost. And I would love, Gators, if you want to go ahead and share with us, why don't you tell us what it is that we are announcing and talking about today, and maybe in a sentence or two, describe what it is.
Sure. So we are here to introduce EasyPost Enterprise. And the simplest way to say it is when out of the box won't do, that's what we do.
Oh, I love it. You want a job over on marketing, getting the taglines in there, huh?
Sure. That would be really dangerous.
Okay, awesome. Skaistis, can you tell us how would you describe it in a sentence? EasyPost Enterprise.
Yeah, I think EasyPost Enterprise is, it's a, shipping platform that can grow with you over time. So, as your business grows, we can grow with you.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the fact that it's enterprise. Enterprise obviously comes with kind of an idea of what that means, but it differs from person to person. Skaistis, what would you say, who would be the right fit What kind of size company, what sort of vertical are they in? What would be a good type of company for a good fit for what EasyPost Enterprise offers?
Yeah, the nice thing about EasyPost Enterprise is that it does cover a wide range of verticals. I mean, everything from, manufacturing, retail, third-party logistics companies, and things like that. The key, factor with EasyPost Enterprise is its flexibility and its ability to integrate with other systems, other customer systems, to build, basically an integrated solution based on that.
Okay. Goeters, do you have anything to follow up with that?
That's a pretty good approximation. I would just add that, when you're a small company, you generally buy an off-the-shelf product, you plug it in, you turn it on, and that's what you ship with. When you get big enough that you can't do that, hey, I have a retail location. I have multiple retail locations. I've got, I want to do returns online. I want to do, as you start adding things together, one package, no matter who makes it, no matter how good they are, isn't going to do it. You need to get to what we call an enterprise product, which is designed to help you plug all those pieces together and operate a plethora of companies, a plethora of entities as one. And that's what enterprise aspires to do.
Okay, I love that. So I heard, here are some little signs that maybe you're ready for an enterprise product, multiple locations, that your dealings are becoming a little more complex, that you just are not able to do kind of that out of the box product. Is that what I'm hearing from you guys?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
It can be a variety of other things too. Like if you're a company that can ship with one product, but you get a conveyor system. There aren't a lot of SMB companies that can talk to the PLCs and the other devices on your conveyor. We can do that easily. Right. So that's example.
Which, again, kind of goes back to the growth thing where, if you start with, a basic, more manual system, and as you grow, you add more automation, you add more locations, you add more, capabilities, you add, different warehouse management, transportation management software, and things like that you need to be integrated with, and that's what EasyPost Enterprise can do for you.
Cool. So let's talk through a little bit what EasyPost Enterprise does in general. So if we have somebody who's watching right now, and maybe even to start, they're not that familiar with EasyPost. So I'm going to ask Goeters to start. Explain, what the difference is between EasyPost as its core product and EasyPost Enterprise.
Sure. So EasyPost core product is an amazing offering. We have one of the highest uptimes in the industry to consume carrier rates and routes and produce labels for pretty much every carrier in the world and growing rapidly. There are some people that's great, but it stops at exactly that. I can only produce labels. I can't talk to an Arduino. I can't talk to an ESP32. I can't talk to 5 different WMS systems. And what our software does is comes and plugs in there and gives you a controlled environment to set up and define those interfaces, all the things that you expect in a high-end product, such as change control. The ability is to do QA independently. So if you have 5 projects going, you can QA each one of them and approve and put into production, as different sites will be on different timelines.
Okay. Skaistis, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, another differentiator is that with EasyPost Enterprise, we have a very flexible deployment model. We can deploy into cloud-based environments, where we can actually host the software for you. Or if you want to deploy EasyPost Enterprise in your own premise, either on premise in a data center or in your own private cloud environment, we can support that as well. For some companies, that's an important factor because of data security and performance concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up security, because that is a question and is a really big deal for larger companies. So appreciate that. Okay, so we talked kind of about the difference between EasyPost and EasyPost Enterprise. How then is EasyPost Enterprise different than maybe the other offerings that are already out there in the enterprise space?
So security, you mentioned, that's a very popular topic. That's something that generally every company that comes to us, has a 300-page security questionnaire. EasyPost is a SOC 2 Type 2 certified company, so we go through all the audits to make sure we're doing all our things, keeping all our stuff in line, doing our security audits, keeping our people where they need to be and not have their hands in what they shouldn't have in. This is something that smaller companies can't afford to do. We are well equipped to keep all those things in line for you and offer the same extension into a customer's warehouse. So if they have data security issues, they want to make sure that they're protected. If they want armed guards, fine, have them, put them around your data center. We'll give you a box you can run inside your physical premise. And with that, there's no parallel to that in the industry.
Yeah, I love that. Skaistis, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think another aspect, compared to some, the competitors, is the fact that this is, at its core, a new product built on new technologies and new capabilities. Whereas some of the other competitor products may be suffering from age, as software can do it sometimes. So we're really excited because that gives us a lot of opportunity, not to just build what has been built before, but building the new things for the future. We've got a solid platform to be able to do that on in a relatively short time frame. So again, it just provides a lot of opportunities for us and our customers.
I love that you put the word new in the same sentence as our industry, because honestly, I mean, we're all part of the industry, but we're not always the most cutting edge industry in terms of getting new technology and staying up to date with the latest and greatest. And so that is super, super important. Yesterday's logistics industry has totally different needs than today's and into the future. So
absolutely. And I've been witness to that over time. So
yeah, I know for sure. So Skaistis, you've been around. It sounds like, nobody's accused me of being a mathematician, but 32 years. So you probably started in the logistics industry around 1387 or something, right?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay. So I know that EasyPost Enterprise was originally created as a direct response to challenges of, large scale shippers, large volume shippers in the industry. What are some of the kind of unique challenges that these enterprise size shippers face?
A lot of it comes down to, there's some, obvious things like performance in terms of just by sheer volume, system has to support, hundreds of thousands of transactions, per day or even sometimes even more. And to be able to have a reliable platform to be able to do your shipping, because for these companies, shipping is a business critical operation. You can't have your shipping system go down for a couple hours a day and expect to make your numbers. So we need to make sure that our platform is reliable, the system works. You can do what you need to do, even maybe if the circumstances aren't perfect. You're having to deal with maybe switching carriers around quickly or something like that. We have to be able to respond to do that. The other thing is just, as we've kind of already talked about, is integration. Large organizations have lots of different software systems that they need to be dealing with, be it ERPs or WMS systems, and we have to be able to integrate with those in a manner that, we can make the entire process work end to end.
That's fantastic. Goeters, do you have anything to add to that? Any other challenges you see with large scale shippers?
There's many. It's kind of an endless discussion. The types of things you ship to can make a big difference. When you're shipping internationally, when you're doing export shipments, there's a lot of compliance components in there. AES direct filings is one of them. We're a newly certified AES direct vendor, so we can provide those. Line items that EU now requires harmonized tariff codes and any shipments going there. Hazardous materials, dangerous goods is another one, a very complex subject to keep everyone safe. Anything that is unique. So say you're a 3PL and you have 100 different customers. Well, you have 100 different pack slips. They all want customizations. They want to be able to print happy birthday messages. Today, people want to text in their orders. So they're going to put emojis. And how many document systems can handle emoji text on their pack lists? Well, we can't. So as those kind of challenges come up, we're ready for them.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that a little bit more. And I had to say, when you were mentioning Skaistis about the potential of reliability and downtime, I was at a warehouse not long ago chatting with a customer, and they had some disruption, and it had to do with the carrier, but thousands of packages were just piling up everywhere. And the nightmare that created when you're going large scale, it was daunting to me just to see it. I wanted to run home and hide in my bed of the thoughts of how are they going to catch up when some sort of disruption occurs. So I just completely can understand and relate to that. So Goeters, how does EasyPost Enterprise, you were starting to talk about this a little bit. So big companies, large volume shippers, they have just a much higher degree of complexity. How does EasyPost Enterprise specifically address those challenges?
Well, we talked about data security is a very big one. So we're one of the first systems, because we're designed from scratch and not recycling old things. We can protect PII a little bit differently. So we can identify PII that comes in. PII is personally identifiable information, or something that an identity thief might want to steal. Protect it and highlight it and carry it through so that log files don't reflect sensitive information. When we go into a place that has Privacy Act laws, California Privacy Act or GDPR over in EU, we can make sure that data is encapsulated and contained and given the appropriate safeguards, encrypted at rest, and so forth. So that's one thing that a lot of other products will just throw it in the database and hope that it works, and we take it a lot more seriously. And if you need that data to float between 4 or 5 different clouds for redundancy on multiple continents, we can make that happen as well. We can do it in our own cloud host, or we can work with on-site staff to make sure that data is there.
So when we talk about cloud, so I know that cloud is huge, really big in the industry. I also know some companies, I think that you kind of referred to this earlier, are a little anxious about cloud. So does EasyPost Enterprise offer both on-prem and cloud options? How does that work?
Yes, we do. It's really kind of been an interesting trend. I'd say even less than 10 years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, no one wanted to have their shipping system in the cloud. It was always going to be on-prem or in their own controlled environment. And then maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it seemed like it was like overnight. It did a 180 where now everyone's wanting to see if they can host it, because it's one of those things that from a customer's perspective, it can be cost effective to do so, and for complex systems especially. So one of the main goals in the design of EasyPost Enterprise is that flexibility. So we can host it for you in our cloud. You can host it in your cloud. You can actually install it on a physical server in your warehouse if you want to. So it's just a matter of your needs as a customer and how again, your own, IT policies, security policies, performance concerns, lots of different factors that play into it. But, we can support all of those.
That's really cool. Goeters, I wanted to ask, earlier Skaistis had kind of mentioned growing companies, companies that maybe are on the precipice of becoming what they would consider large scale. What kind of support or maybe even guidance do you, if they're wanting to know more about maybe how they should do their settings, or what kind of, I guess I'm asking for customer support kind of options are there around EasyPost Enterprise to help these, both the growing and the large scale shippers?
That's a great question, Laurie. So along with Jeff and I and our history, we employ a number of professional services integrators who have similar, 10, 15-year tenures, which is pretty unheard of in any software product, that are experienced and have been to hundreds, if not thousands, of warehouses that have answered those types of questions over a plurality of ranges of needs. And if someone needs our support, we have those people there. We can do, 24/7 worldwide. We'll fly anywhere, do anything, to give them an experienced technician that has answered those questions. If they don't need that type of talent, we have a wiki software a wiki platform that'll give them whatever we would teach our own people about the software. Or how do you configure it? What does this setting do? What does that setting do? If they can self-help, they can call in on our support line. They can chat with us. We are open to making sure that they feel loved all the time. We know that a lot of logistics operations are 24/7, and we're dedicated to helping them through that.
I love that. One thing that, as you know, I get to interview, is honestly just an honor that I get to interview so many super, super smart people in the industry here on this show. And one thing I've heard before is that's critical in this industry is to meet people where they're at. And that sounds kind of exactly what you guys have been talking about in terms of cloud versus on-prem, or the type of level of support that they get. So is that something that you would agree with, either of you, on that EasyPost Enterprise kind of meets the customers and clients where they're at, and it's super customizable and flexible to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, again, one of the main points is that, it's designed to solve their problems. I mean, whatever the use case is or the scenario is, we likely have a solution, either if not quite built in, it's something that we can build as part of an integration very easily. And so, Jeff mentioned, custom documents and things like that. We have a very, full-featured document builder user interface that if a customer so chooses, they could actually use that to, do their own customizations to shipping labels or build other documents standalone and things like that. So to solve those kind of issues that they need, and it makes it, if they don't have that capability, then it's something that, we can do for them. So
That's
again,
fantastic.
there's a broad range of, what we can do or what we can help them do themselves.
Cool. Goeters, do you have anything to add to that?
I could spend hours. Sorry.
The reality is that Jeff and I could probably talk about this for days.
Well, let's talk about objections then. Okay. So you are obviously here. You've been in the industry forever. You're super excited about this new, cool, innovative product. People are going to be a little bit skeptical. So what do you feel like, Goeters, are some of the common objections that companies might have, or reasons that they might be worried about swapping?
Well, we try to address in technical design, as that's kind of what I do, some of the concerns, like we talked about how to deploy it. And the reason we can deploy on such a wide range of systems is it's a container deployment. So in previous lives is like, well, okay, we're a Windows platform, and now you need to play with my antivirus software and my IDS software. And hey, look, half your files are gone. Why is my shipping system not working? And so now that containers are a more accepted methodology, that I hand you a certified black box, literally, that you can run on any platform, in any cloud or locally or whatever else. We've done our QA, we've done our checks, we have our source control, we have all of the change management that we need for our security certifications. We put that in. Now you have something that is unbreakable. As long as that container remains intact, you're going to keep shipping. Your database will hold your configuration settings, of course, but we have our technicians to help with that. So you're no longer in a fragile world where if antivirus gets hacked or something and deletes half your files, you're done shipping for the day. Well, with us, no, here's your container. Boop, there you go. You're up again.
Perfect. Skaistis, what else?
I think, it's also a matter of, there are customers who, again, kind of going back to the cloud thing, and, how do we interact with on-premise systems in that environment? Because, it's some customers, and especially with, automation equipment or something like that, that's going to be living probably on-premise in the warehouse, but we're hosted in the cloud. How do we communicate with that? And we have basically technology we call Cloud Bridge that allows you to essentially, operate your EasyPost Enterprise system in the cloud, either, our hosted cloud or your private cloud, but still be able to securely communicate with systems on premises, be it databases or file shares or whatever else that you might need to communicate with. That's all done in a secure, reliable fashion. And so that gives, you don't, even in those cases where you've got a widely dispersed system, we have that capability to handle those kinds of connectivity.
Very cool. So Goeters, I think you mentioned the tech stack earlier and just integrations and whatnot. That's obviously always a big concern. What else? Is there anything else you can share on that topic that would maybe alleviate those concerns for people listening?
Well, we talked about that we have a wiki available so people can look at the documentation. One of the other great things that I took great pride in when I started working with EasyPost is we publish our uptime. You can go to our status page and see in real time if we're down. And others will hide it or bury it or, oh, it's a planned maintenance event. Well, it wasn't planned when it was out. We publish our stats. We publish how well we do. We take it very, very seriously. If there is ever a problem with our cloud, we have multiple points and data centers. We'll show you the fears. Like, you're afraid of downtime? No problem. Here, look at my record. And we hope to extend that to as far as we can onto premise. that we can give you references. We have some amazing clients that will happily say, yeah, I've been using these, what Jeff said is right. I've been using them for 10 years and this stuff is solid. So we'll show you if a customer has a specific fear. I, of course, don't think we have that much to worry about, but if you have one, tell us what it is and we'll get you a reference. This is, yes, we know what we're doing.
That is something I've been really impressed with here at EasyPost. As I've worked with the executive leadership, that focus on transparency and that focus on, being upfront with customers and with everyone. And I'm also, you mentioned uptime. Skaistis, is there anything that we're doing specifically that, how is the uptime so good? And, what could people expect in terms of uptime with this product?
Our goal is to have, we'll say zero downtime. And what that means is that, if you're not doing active maintenance on the system, it should just stay running. And so that's the goal. And we've got the technology in place to be able to support that. That doesn't always happen because maybe there's something external affecting it and those kinds of things. But those are situations you kind of have to, it's almost kind of you have to learn as you go because every environment is going to be a bit different in terms of, how things behave and things like that. So there's always some adjustments to be made. But that's by far the goal is to have a system that, as Jeff said, you drop a container and you turn it on and it's just going to keep running and doing what it needs to do. We've spent a lot of time, in kind of down in the weeds to make sure that kind of thing can happen. And this is probably, I've seen a lot of shipping systems over the years, and this is by far, in terms of what we can do in terms of reliability, the most reliable thing I've ever dealt with for sure. So
that's fantastic. Goeters, one other question that I know that we get from people is, what does that process look like for onboarding? If they were going, if a company was like, okay, I want to give this a try, is there a time frame? What can they expect? What can you share about that?
Well, obviously it's a somewhat seasonal business, so I can't say it's going to take a day or take a week. We do give you a professional salesperson that can do pre-sales questions. Say, how could we address this? What would it cost if we did this? We'll answer, sometimes getting even to the pseudocode level to say, okay, if you want a routing table, here's how we could lay that out and whiteboard it up and draw flow charts to make sure that we understand what they're asking of us if there is something that we need to build for them. If we can deal with just the product as it is, hook it up to database tables and so forth, it's usually a pretty painless process, and there's not a lot of questions in onboarding. If there's an account problem, hey, UPS didn't enable my internet export service or this, we can work through them pretty quickly as we have a pretty good contact list with every carrier worldwide, almost every carrier worldwide. But in the U.S., I can pretty confidently say that we can get to any level of help that we need to get whatever service was offered to them by that carrier.
Kind of goes back to that where you talked about meeting them where they're at, and the flexibility, I guess, is, where every system could be slightly different and customized. So the onboarding process may be more dependent on what that particular customer is wanting and how fast that they probably need to get it up. Would you say that's right, Skaistis?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is because every situation is different. For instance, if we're integrating with, another enterprise system like a WMS, there may be the WMS third-party integrators involved that we're working with and those kinds of things, which, maybe have their own schedule. And so it's a matter of making sure that, we kind of joke when we're going into these projects is that we always want to make sure that that we're waiting on you instead of the other way around. So that's that's our mindset, is that we want to make sure that we have our stuff ready to go, and then we're waiting on you to start talking to us.
Okay, I want now to talk a little bit. I want you to pull out your crystal balls. It's time for us to envision the future, look into the future. So, where do you, Goeters, see the large volume shipping industry kind of going in the future? Where would you guess, is this going to become bigger, more complex? Are we going to size down where there's going to be more fragmentation? Where do you see that? And how do you feel like EasyPost Enterprise is positioned to meet whatever that demand is as we go forward?
Lori, that's a deeply philosophical question.
Those are my
Questions
favorite
about
questions, Jeff.
6
I love
days of
philosophy.
6 days of answer. So, as best as I can shorten it down to the time of this podcast, I would say that it's going to become a prerequisite to use software like EasyPost. I know there's others out there, and they're going to stay out there, but what customers are expecting today, the things that the industry has pushed for, where it's like, okay, I want to give you a door code to just the driver. I don't want to put it on my web form where it could be stolen by the terrorists. I want to be able to SMS, when the driver's 2 blocks away, so I can go out and get it, make sure we don't get it. We didn't talk about, the other aspects that EasyPost covers, like porch piracy insurance. That's part of our platform. The comprehensiveness of all these little pieces. We have lockers are now a thing in America where I want to go pick it up from, I'm going to go to the hardware store and I want to go grab my package there because it's, $1,000 iPhone and I don't want it stolen. There's so many things. You're going to need a package like ours that encompasses multiple people from multiple industries to bring the solution together in-house and make it affordable. You're not going to have time to go shop 75 different packages, which you're going to need to do all the things that a customer expects in e-commerce today.
Skaistis, how do you feel like EasyPost Enterprise is going to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation and making sure that we do meet all these needs that Gator mentioned? I said before that sometimes our industry is a little slow when it comes to picking up new technology. EasyPost, I know, really wants to not be that way. How are they going to do that, Skaistis?
I think that, a lot of that comes from our customers. I mean, our customers, in working with their carriers, the carriers have gotten more and more creative over the years in terms of what kind of solutions they offer. And then they offer those to their customers. And then it's kind of up to us then to be able to implement something to support that solution. And it's always a challenge because, carrier may have done something one way for 20 years and all of a sudden tomorrow now it's completely different because they've decided, either because of a competitive reason or for cost savings or something like that, they're going to do it differently. And, us, from our perspective, that's something now that we need to be able to support and deal with. And again, it goes back to what we've built with EasyPost Enterprise. It's something that is flexible enough that we can turn those things around quickly. It's not something that's been locked in stone forever and ever, and we're going to have to go back and redo things from scratch every time something changes. It's designed to change over time. It's designed to be flexible as things move forward and things change. And that's where I think we really have an advantage to some of the other systems out there. And that we can do that quickly, we can do that cost effectively, and with, we'll say, a minimum of challenge on our part.
Yeah. Legacy systems are going to continue to age and really just weren't necessarily set up originally to meet
right.
the emerging needs,
And I'll plug part of what we have as a product offering in EasyPost Enterprise is something that specifically targets legacy systems. So those customers who are out there on older systems, on older plans. Still working, still running, but we have the capabilities to communicate with those and interact with those, and we can make build solutions using our new technology, talking to that old technology.
Oh, that's super cool. I wasn't aware of that, and that's awesome. Okay, each of you, we are just about at the end of time. It's about time to wrap up. If you have a piece of advice, one or two pieces of advice for large-scale shippers, what would you recommend that they start looking at, or how could they prepare to implement something like EasyPost Enterprise, or just general advice even of things that they can do to make sure they're positioning themselves well? Let's start with Skaistis, and then we'll end with Goeters.
I think, one of the things that shippers are doing more of now, which is great, is shopping around with their carriers. I mean, before it was, it seems like customer would kind of pick a carrier and then they'd be locked in for 4 or 5 years just because they didn't want to have to deal with it again. That time, that timeline is shrinking, where they're doing that evaluation, every couple of years, every year, or even multiple times a year to see if they can make change their carrier mix. And so that's why a system like EasyPost Enterprise becomes important, because if you need to shift your carriers right in the middle of peak or something like that, we can do it because we have that capability.
Yeah, it's so true. There are so many variables going on with shippers, with carriers all the time. Everything, we've seen strikes and weather-related problems.
And a couple of years ago, carrier capacity was a huge concern, and being able to do that, being able to have a system in place that could either monitor the capacity or shift loads as needed is important.
Yeah. Goeters, what's your advice?
My advice is something that I learned as an entrepreneur the hard way, and that's that you can't do it alone. So if you are an up-and-coming shipper, the reason that we have a professional services team, we have an entire consulting team available to talk to them about everything in their warehouse that have been through it hundreds of times and are happy to talk about how solutions have worked for other customers and how they could be adapted to work for them. So you don't need to worry about how you're going to schedule that pickup or how you're going to get that audit report or how you're going to get that dashboard available so you don't get fired. We are the people that can connect you to all the pieces and parts, whether we have them, whether it's a third party or whether it's just technologies in-house that, they might not even know. We've been through it before. We want to help them. We only succeed when they succeed.
Okay, Goeters, if people want to learn more about EasyPost Enterprise, where can they go to do that?
EasyPost.com/enterprise.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, and Skaistis, are you on LinkedIn or both of you? If anybody wants to follow you, glean a little bit more of this decades of experience in the industry, is there somewhere they can follow you?
Yeah, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. It's one of those things that I'll occasionally drop nuggets of wisdom out there and things like that. If anybody enjoys it, they can, but more importantly, if somebody has any questions or wants to ping me on something, that's a great way to do it.
Perfect. Goeters, are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn too. I post occasionally until my lawyers tell me to take it down.
Okay, awesome. We'll include those links down here in the description. It has been an absolute pleasure having both of you. I love working with people of your high caliber, and I love the way that you're able to simply and eloquently really describe what EasyPost Enterprise is. So thank you so much, community. If you have any questions, of course, always reach out. If you have topic ideas or if there are certain people you want me to interview here on the show, just reach out and let me know. I'm happy to do that. And make sure that you follow and like and subscribe. But we'll see you all next time. Thank you, Jeffs.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.